Hi, Nursing 452 students. It's Dr. Piantek here. I just wanted to go over with you Module 3. But before I do, I just want to remind everyone that all of you are at very different levels in terms of where you are in this practicum experience. So if you are still wrapping up your interviews with your key players, or maybe you're completely done with that and you're ready to move on with really putting your presentation together, and maybe you'll be presenting soon, or maybe you've already presented, we're all at different places. And so with that being said, obviously in your discussion board each week, or every other module rather, you'll notice some people who have posted, some people who have not posted yet. I'm going to keep that discussion board open all semester long, which means that if you can post your initial post at that time, that's great. If it's just not relevant yet for you because of where you are with your project and where you are with your practicum hours, that's okay. So that way then you post when you are ready to post in the discussion board. And then if you do have peers that have posted, you can certainly go ahead and go in and do your response post to those peers' posts. So as long as by the end of the semester, you've hit all of those initial posts and you've done all of those response posts, then you should be fine with your grade as far as getting all those points. So I hope this doesn't muddy the water or anything, but just keep in mind, everyone's at different places when it comes to where they are with their project. And so the discussion board, don't think of it as a week by week task. Look at it as a full semester long kind of task. So, and I'll be going in and out and posting when I can. Last week was a little busy because I was trying to get a lot of people situated and where they were going to be doing their hours. And it was, some required contracts. And so I was working on getting those contracts, and some of that required me to travel. So anyway, I just wanted to let everyone know that I will be posting in those discussion boards too. So just if I ask like a question or something, just keep an eye on that discussion board. You'll see in the column where it'll say replies to me, and that way then you'll know someone had replied to your discussion board. So just go ahead and check on that periodically. So if you have questions about that, let me know. But you'll receive a grade at the end unless you've completed it for the week. Then I'll go in and grade, I'll attach a grade to your work. But if it's something that, it just didn't fall in alignment with where you are that week, like I said, I'll keep that open, and you just post when you can, and then you'll get that grade once you've done the initial and the 2 posts afterwards. So moving on to Module 3, this is when we're really going to start looking at the interventions about what we're going to be doing. And like I said last week, most of these interventions are kind of an educational component. It will either be to your specific population, or maybe it'll be to the general population about a specific population. And one example of this is maybe you're doing childhood obesity, right? But maybe you're not going to present to children. Maybe you want to present to adults who have children. So, obviously, depending upon who your audience is, you'll need to scale your presentation to be adequate. So if it's to children that you're going to be presenting, obviously bring it down to their level, right? Make it fun, make it engaging. Their attention spans are very short, so you'll want to mix it up with your presentation. With adults, you're going to want to make it relevant. Why is it that they are learning this information? How can they apply it? And they have longer attention spans, obviously, so you don't have to incorporate a lot of the activities that you normally would with a presentation to children. So just make sure that you're keeping your audience, the demographics of your audience in terms of age. Make sure that your presentation is appropriate for that age group. So moving along then, you will see that we have the beginnings of the final project paper. Now, your final project paper streamlines right in line with what your presentation is about. So if you go on to the rubric, and I have it pulled up here, you will write why you're doing what you're doing, your overview. This is going to be a lot of maybe what you did in 451. And then in Module 3, we're going to be talking about and that's this module, the topic, the population, the level of prevention, looking at those 2020 objectives, and then incorporating some of that about what you've already had created in 451 if you're still doing the same project that you had proposed in 451. Some of you have changed, which is completely fine. You might just have to do a little bit more work and research in order to put the pieces together for your presentation and for this paper. And then in Module 4, we're going to be talking about the evidence, the review of literature. You'll need to have at least 5 references from scholarly peer-reviewed journals or resources such as the CDC, the Community Guide, the County Health Rankings and Roadmaps, the NIH, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or other resources that are credible. Okay, if you have any questions about a credible resource, just email me the resource and I can check it out and I can let you know if it's a credible resource or not. Usually if anything ends up in the web URL as a .gov or a .org, it's relatively credible. If it's a .com, those are when it kind of gets to be a little questionable. And then of course Wikipedia is not a credible resource. And then in Module 5, we're going to be talking more about those teaching methods, the resources and visual aids that you will be using for your presentation, and then how you're going to evaluate the outcomes. So this really kind of streamlines back to writing SMART objectives, what it is you want your audience to gain from your presentation. So for example, if you're going to be doing a presentation to adults about childhood obesity, one of your objectives might be by the end of this presentation, 75% of the audience will be able to list 3 risk factors for childhood obesity. Okay, so that is a very SMART objective. It's very timely, so it's by the end of your presentation. It's very measurable. It's 75% of your audience will be able to list 3 health factors related to obesity. So just kind of keep that SMART format in mind when you're writing your objectives. And then what you're going to do, that method of evaluation is very important because when you're finished with your presentation, you're going to create basically a survey. And when you're finished with your presentation, you're going to go back to those SMART objectives and you're going to ask your audience, you can do a paper survey, you can do a verbal survey, however you want to survey your audience. You're going to survey them in their understanding of the content that you had delivered. How effective was your presentation? So if you give a paper survey, you can simply just have, 3 or 4 questions that are specific to the presentation and see, did you do a good job in delivering that information and were they able to retain that? So that's what that method of evaluation is all about. And then of course, Module 6, we talk about implementing your presentation. And then tabulating the evaluation component. So if you're doing like a verbal survey and you're just looking out in the audience and you're kind of doing a raise the hands, or maybe you do something interesting with your phones. If they all have smartphones, they can kind of take a survey that way if you want to get into something like that. Or if you do a paper and pencil survey, then you're going to analyze your data. You're going to see, well, how many people raised their hands who thought that childhood obesity was a major issue, right? So obviously it is, because it leads to so many other health disease processes. But if only like maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 people raise their hand, well, then you know that maybe that was not conveyed in your presentation. All right, so that's that evaluation component. That's really investigating how well your presentation was put together, and then you're going to report on that. I want to see what the results were. So my advice is always, if it's going to be adults, go ahead and do a paper and pencil survey. If you're going to be doing little kids, maybe not so much. Some of these kids, especially like if you do like preschool, or if you do even 5th graders, sometimes they might have difficulty reading. We don't really know what their reading level is, or maybe their comprehension level is. So sometimes doing another survey route works really well. So again, not verbal survey, but just make like mental notes and then immediately start kind of jotting some notes down. So that way then you have that information fresh, written out. And when you go into your paper, then you're able to report on the your data. All right, so then in Module 7, This is the final project with your evaluations. This is when you give if you have a preceptor, you're going to give the preceptor that form that they need to complete about how well you did as a student. And then you will also complete an evaluation of your preceptor and the facility. So that way we have an idea, is this a good preceptor for future use? Is it a good practicum site for future practicum sites? So that's really helpful for us. So this is the rubric then that I will use to grade your paper. So Abby, if you can tell, Module 7 really doesn't have anything to do with the paper, but I broke it down into modules so you can kind of see what we're going to be covering the modules. So that way, as you're looking through the rubric, you're like, well, I don't know what she means about evaluation. Well, that's actually in, module 5 and 6. So just look in those and that will help you. So you can just kind of look through here. This is the rubric that I'll grade the paper. And again, it streamlines specifically with your project, okay? So the paper and the project they're very much related. They are two different assignments, but they go together, okay? And I think once you start looking at the rubric, you'll really gain that insight. Again, when you do a presentation, sometimes people like to do PowerPoint. Sometimes they do a poster presentation. If you're doing a health fair, you most likely are doing a poster presentation. So talk about those visual aids, and you can even take a picture of it, upload it as a PDF, and you can embed that into your paper then. And that's really cool, because then if I'm not able to attend your presentation, I can at least see that in your paper, or at least as an appendix of your paper. So if you need help with that, just let me know. All right, so that is the rubric for the paper. Let's go ahead and go back then into Module 3. I only have a couple minutes yet. So again, just keep up with those journals. So this is going to be each time you do some kind of an activity, or if you do practicum hours, okay? So if you do a CEU activity, go ahead and journal about it. If you do 8 hours with a preceptor, go ahead and journal that day. All right, so keep up with the journal writing. I do grade this as they come in, but just know that this is a total of 20 points. So if you get a 4 out of 20, don't panic. It just means it's a grade in progress. So when you hit all 40 hours of your practicum time, and it's kind of reflected in the journal writing, you'll get your points awarded then. So look for that more at the end of the semester when, if you're still at 40 out of 20 and you've only submitted one journal for like a 2-hour activity, for example, then you need to do a little bit more journaling. So if you have questions, let me know. And then, of course, we have the Population Health Project draft. So this is an easy, simple assessment. You just go in. It's kind of like that quiz format, if you will. And then you can answer each question. You can copy and paste it from a Word document and then just put that into like the comment box, okay? I hope that makes sense. If you have questions about that, let me know, but you should be able to go in there. So you just click begin. All right. So if you notice here, there's like some questions here. So you can, what I mean by copy and pasting. So you would just copy this and then paste it in here, and then you can just type in your answers after that, okay, if that works for you. The other thing you can do is you can copy and paste all of this. If you close the window, then you should be able to go back in and then kind of take the quiz, if you will, once you've created that Word document that has all of the content indicated. All right, and then so you have all these questions to answer, which you probably already have from your 451 or from the ongoing research that you're doing if you've changed your topic. And then indicate the location and time you'll be doing your population health project and who will be attending. All right. Remember to think, if I'm not going to be there, you need to have someone who can video record this. So obviously, if you live a distance away, I'm not going to be able to attend. So you'll need to bring someone who can video record so you can upload it into YouTube. And then copy and paste your top 5 to 10 references, and then writing those SPART objectives. And that's the quiz, if you will. It's just a simpler way of doing things besides doing an assignment. Well, my time's running out, so if you have questions, let me know. Talk to you soon. Bye.